Hello again, Maestro fans. So, I've been waiting on parts arriving and just trying to get everything together to have a decent size update. The support for the videos has been very welcome. I've appreciated that. And the comments. You've all been helping me either with problems I thought I'd already solved or problems I'm currently working through. So, I really do appreciate all the feedback, both on YouTube here and on the forums that I use on how to make things better with this little car. It feels like... Now then, I'm not sure which order this video is going to go out, because to save you being completely bored, I've been splitting the water leak solving videos with other updates, other work I'm doing on the car. So, either you'll see this before I've cured the water leak problem, or afterwards. I'm not sure which. Editing me will sort it out. The car itself is behaving very well. I have, apart from the items already covered, I have no complaints. I feel like everything I've done has improved, and as I've gone along, the car is just getting better and getting nicer. The massive improvement was the fact that the car isn't damp inside anymore, so dealing with the water leaks was quite a big deal. I know for some people water leaks do feel like a fairly inconsequential thing. You just keep cleaning the windows, put a dehumidifier in, but it doesn't really fix the problem. Leave a water leak long enough, you're going to start getting degradation of the interior. In some cases you do get mould if the car's dirty, which is not good for your health. And you can get weird electrical problems, and I hate dealing with electrical problems, so doing all the effort to clear up the water leak, very good idea. Now, some of you are probably going to be annoyed that I still haven't sorted out the exhaust, and I still haven't sorted out the oil leak from the rocker cover, even though those are very easy jobs. Two big reasons for that. One, the water leak, and two, by extension, the weather. It just, apart from a brief break for some snow, it seems to have been raining constantly since October last year. And I'm now filming this in February, getting on for March. And it's just, I haven't got a workshop. I have to do all of this outside on the drive, and that's fairly normal in the UK. Most people in the UK do not have workshops. They do not have substantially sized garages, as anybody viewing in the UK knows, and having the luxury of a workspace is just that. It's not something many of us have. There are plans in motion, but it's going to be a number of years before they actually come to fruition, unfortunately. Because of course I decided to start doing the YouTube thing not long after moving house, and all the things that entails. So yeah, just trying not to spread myself too thin. Since I'm talking to camera, might as well give you some other updates as well. The other cars that you'll have seen in the background and in the other videos, a couple of them, there are going to be new videos coming. Again, I'm waiting on the weather so that I can do those jobs. The Princess, unfortunately, while I am going to do a video on it, I'm going to bring you up to speed on it, it needs an engine rebuild. And as a result, everything else I was going to do on that car is on hold. Up until very recently, I had been using it regularly, but we think it needs inspecting. It might just be worn out piston rings, it might be something more serious, so I hate doing engine work. I'm going to send that off to somebody else and they can deal with it for me. The Lanchester, work paused on that last year, because, well, the weather, really, more than anything else. The Lanchester isn't weather tight yet. We've got the seals to go in, but we've got to get the starter motor done, we've got to get the radiator done, and although the car does run and drive and just about stop, the brakes do need adjusting. If it rains while it's outside, the rain just gets in the car. And with it being a wooden framed car, we don't really want to risk any sort of damage from the weather until we know we've gone through everything. We've got some big jobs coming on that car. We've got a new wiring loom to go in. We've got the door cards that have been rebuilt to go back in. There's new carpets to make. There's the entertainment system we want to build for it. There's some subtle lighting upgrades. And generally, we're really excited about getting that car sorted. I think that's the one that we're going to be using later this year. If everything pans out, it's a lot closer than you might expect, that one. And the Princess is a lot further away. So the Maestro does everything I need for now. The Maestro is the car that I use every day. Well, would normally use every day if it wasn't for the world. And it gets me about. It's cheap and frugal and comfortable, or will be once I've got the suspension done. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it in a way I always have with Maestros. They are either the ones I've personally driven about, or the ones other people I know have had, that I've had dealings with. They're just really good at being a car when you just need transport and you just don't want to worry about it. They're fantastic for it. All the things I've been doing on this car were not really necessary. These are done for my own satisfaction. And I could quite easily just have done nothing, never cleaned it, never fixed any of the gauges, and just run it into the ground. And I think most people would have done. But I'm enjoying it. I wasn't expecting to feel like it was a keeper, but it feels like a keeper. But then again, I did say that about the BX and the unsolvable air leak issue on the diesel on that BX. And I say unsolvable, and you're going to suggest things to me. You're going to say, oh, well, did you do this? Did you do that? And the answer is yes. Everything that you do to a diesel to solve the air leak was done on that car. And it misbehaved up until the day I sold it, and then it was perfectly fine for the new owner. And recently, I gather, it's started doing the same problem again, and he can't get to the bottom of it yet. So it was a fantastic car. I loved that BX. I would love another one someday, but it would have to be a petrol. I am done with diesels. I've gone on a bit longer than I meant to here. Yeah, I'm going to cover some car history. I'm going to go over a few bits and bobs and details about what I'm into, why I do things the way I do, because I know as well that my method of bringing a car back is not the usual. Because I'm into cars, but I'm not into engines. I appreciate people who are, and I'm very glad there are people who are into engines and enjoy working on them, but I'm not one of those people. So the approach I take is very different, and that's fine. Everyone has a different approach. But if there's anything you want to know about the cars, any questions you've got that you'd like answered, leave a comment. Let me know. I want the videos I'm producing to be useful to you. They're a useful point of reference for me. Sometimes pictures tell you so much, but videos, you can go back and you can actually see how things are done. So hopefully it's useful for everybody, and do all the YouTube things. Liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing the videos, it all helps. My goal is to try and get to 1,000 subscribers by this time next year, so February 2022, and that's my goal. I know it's just numbers, but it's something to work to. So as I'm recording this, I'm on 74, I think it is. I'm just a little bean, but you've got to start somewhere. Thanks for sticking around. It's been a couple of days and the rain has finally stopped. Now, with all the interior in the house is a bit full, and the car is, well, hopefully we'll be able to see better where the water's coming in, because none of the fabrics are going to be leaking it that's not the right word. Leaching it? Anyway, where the water comes in is not going to be changed in appearance by where it shows up, because there's no carpets, there's no soft furnishings to drag the water around. So let's have a look inside and see exactly how much water we've got in after 2 days of pretty much constant rain here. So the really obvious one when you first open the car up is the bit under the seat, which we know is from that bit underneath the latch. So that one's going to be one of the jobs today. The other one is there. It's not that bad, so I'll get that done as well. You can see on the back panel there's a couple of spots of water, and I'm pretty sure that's coming in through the tailgate still, and that's probably because of the one side of the glass I haven't yet sealed up. I'm not going to worry about that one today because that water is contained to one area and it's very minimal. The water that was coming in on this B pillar has stopped coming in, so maybe that was down to me just being in and out of the car. Not sure on that one. In the front, there's a little tiny bit there in that corner. Now, I know that's getting in past this door seal, and I do want to replace these door seals. I'm going to save up and just replace the lot because I did it on the Princess. It made a big difference to how enjoyable the car was to be in, because it cut down on a lot of road noise and wind noise as well, so we'll do that. The driver's side is actually very, very dry, which is nice. So I'm not worrying about the front end. I think that's as sealed up as that's ever going to be. I'm going to deal with that puddle, which means getting the wheel off and getting those 2 little holes sealed up. And then really I'm just going to clean the interior and get it ready for everything going back in. I think we're pretty close to having this beaten. Right, one wheel off. And now we get to have a look inside the wheel arch. So, the leak at the top of the turret seems to be up there somewhere. But there's a lot of mud in here, so I'm going to have to clean things out. You can see there's a bit of a repair there, I think. And then the other leak on the seam seal is probably around this point here. So I'm going to get some cleaning gear and get this scrubbed down so I can actually see what's going on. And bring you in for a closer look. So now that we've scrubbed it, you can see this line here. That seems to be where the boot floor sits. Now, the little tiny hole in the seam sealer is on the other side of this. And I can't really see anything on this side of the car. So I'm guessing it must be just a very tiny hole. The only thing I've noticed is where this old repair is, which I think is just some black paint. This little bit here just keeps bleeding a bit of water. So I'm guessing that's some failed seam sealant. I can see there's a piece missing there, so it's probably coming in through that seam there. So I'll do that. The other bit where it's coming in quite badly inside the car is up there. And again, on this side it doesn't look that bad, so I think if I seal it on the other side, it's just going to stop coming in the car. There's nothing to actually seal up on this side, so I'm going to dry out the inside and then get that sealed up. Weapon of choice for sealing up is U-Pol grey stripe. That's all the bits I can find gone round. Usually I'd use a paintbrush, but a lot of it's actually very difficult to get to, so I used a finger, which is quite effective. I'm not worried about this being a pretty job because I think I'm going to have to come back to this in the future, so I want it just to be practically sealed. I was really hoping as well when I put the sealant on the inside it had come through on this side when I did the inside of the car, and it didn't. But I noticed where the welding is there was a small, it didn't look like a hole exactly, but I thought it was sensible to put some sealant in. That's the bit where there was the missing sealant, a little bit overboard. And then at the top where there's the welding, again there was a little bit that looked a bit like it might be a hole, but it wasn't very clear. So hopefully that's all on this side sealed up. The boot was quite a bit easier. So that's where that little hole was in the seam sealant. It was so tiny it's an easy one to miss, so hopefully that's got that. Inside the car, on the cabin, on the seats side, I put some here. There was some pinholing. Yes, I should weld it properly. My thought was the seam sealant, if any water does come down here again, it's just going to run straight off and I can deal with it better because it'll be going onto a painted surface. Oh yeah, and then that one was the most important one. which is where it was leaking the most, so just put a lot in there just to cover up the welding that hadn't been sealed. And hopefully that'll see this dry. So I'm going to have to leave this to dry probably another day, and then I will get the wheels back on and hopefully it'll stay as dry as it is today. I'm probably teaching most of you to suck eggs here, but if you've not done this job before, taking a wheel on and off, some cars are easier than others. This one's quite easy. The wheels are very small and light, and it's on studs rather than bolts. I have the car jacked up. I also have it supported on an axle stand for safety. So, first job, wind all your wheel nuts on. I'm going to assume that your stud threads are nice and clean, or your bolt threads, if you've got bolts instead, are all nice and clean, so you don't need to go through that step. Some people like to use a bit of copper slip or similar. I prefer not to. Okay. Once you've got all your wheel nuts on, you then just tighten them up as far as you can go. If your handbrake's on the back, as it is on most cars, put your handbrake on as well while you do this. Some cars have the handbrake on the front. When you do the nuts up, that one, and then that one, and then that one. That way the wheel gets tightened on evenly. If you have an odd number of studs, there's a slightly different way of doing it, but all my cars are 4 stud, so it doesn't matter. Right, now that's done up hand tight effectively, we can take the car off the jack. Jack it up enough to get your axle stand out. And then let the car down as smoothly and evenly as possible. Also, with your jacks, always turn the screw undone so that the jack isn't under the pressure. It helps your jack live a bit longer. With the car on the ground, you then go around and tighten your wheel nuts up either to factory torque spec if you're fussy, or as tight as they'll go. I'm using the factory brace, which isn't very good. It's a bit short, but it'll do the job. I don't have a dugger gun for this. You just go around until they feel about right. There we go. You want to recheck these after, well, at least 50 miles. 50 to 100 miles, just recheck they're tight, they haven't come undone. Or if you hear any strange noises, definitely check them straight away. And then just pop your wheel cover back on if you have one. Job done. It's the next day. We had some rain overnight, so that should tell us whether or not we've got water in. And hopefully, if it's dry, we can get the interior back in today. A little bit worrying though, because the first thing I saw when I got back to the car was the back window's all fogged up. But that could just be residual water in it. Let's start up at the front. That's usually where it's wet. And you can see it's a little bit damp just in that corner. It's not enough to cause any problems really. And again, I know this is coming past the door seal, so I'm not worrying about that. There is nothing in the floor at the back of that side, which is great. There's nothing on the B-pillar, that's all dry, so whatever was causing that leak must have been a fluke. And again, that floor pan's nice and dry. Driver's side, similar to the passenger side, there's a little bit just in the corner, but not enough to be a worry. And I'm pretty sure that's just door seals now. The bit under the back seat is completely dry, which is fantastic. That means that what we did up here has worked. And it looks like what we did there has worked as well, because that's nice and dry. So what's causing the fogging up on the rear window is the water that's coming through the tailgate. And you can see this side is much worse. This is the side of it I haven't sealed. And it's coming through the tailgate, getting past this trim, and then going down into there. So at least I now can see for definite that it's just the tailgate that's leaking now. That's all that's letting water in at the back. And at the front, I know that the only thing that is letting water in now is these door seals, which I know are worn out. But that's good, that's progress. It was quite heavy driven rain last night, so considering how dry it is in here, I don't really have any complaints about that. I think that's pretty reasonable really. So I'm going to risk putting all of the soft furnishings back in, and it's not raining at the moment, but it might rain in a bit, so we'll have to see what I'm going to do about the camera setup. Hopefully putting things back together goes nice and quickly, just like taking it apart did.